I'll start with a brief context around the topic. So Indonesia has signed many commitments in order to achieve net zero emissions. And as one of the strategic steps, the head of Nusantara Capital Authority, OIKN, has announced the Nusantara Regionally and Locally Determined Contribution, or RLDC, in last year's COP. And just on last Sunday, OIKN launched the RLDC, or Nusantara Net Zero Strategy 2045, which you can find the booklet or the booklet inside the little box on your seat. So you can open it and you probably can have a look to know more about the program. But again, congratulations. Happy to see a quick progress. So this session, we will explore Nusantara's sustainability action plan as a forest city. So how the progress of the development of Nusantara in the context of carbon neutrality. We will also hear more in regarding Nusantara RLDC and how to gear up on collaboration with multiple sectors in order to achieve net zero locally as well as globally. Let's proceed with the discussion by inviting our moderator. He's the Special Staff for Knowledge Management from OIKN, Pak Cahyadi Indrananto.
Good morning, actually good day. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Cahyadi. As the MC has introduced, 2 days ago, the Nusantara Capital Authority just launched a very pertinent publication that some of you have already read, the Nusantara Net Zero Strategy 2045. And this actually affirms our commitment to align ourselves with the global climate campaign and by trying to achieve net zero emission by 2045. And this is actually ahead of the national target. Indonesia, Nusantara is actually the first one, the first city in Indonesia that has this kind of commitment. But I'm sure that we are not alone in this world. Many cities has already attempted to proceed with achieving carbon neutrality according to their own plan and according to their own timeline. So today we are about to hear from many stakeholders on how we can ensure that there's a coherent climate actions across the city around the world. And we are very privileged today to have a very good panel that will contribute in the discussion. But before that, I would like to invite Dr. Mina Savitri, the Deputy for Environment and Natural Resources at the Nusantara Capital Authority, to provide some background on this Nusantara Net Zero Strategy. So please join us in welcoming Dr. Mina Savitri.
Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished speakers and participants. I think I need to start this speech by saying that the development of Nusantara is not only a construction project of a new capital, but in broader sense, there is a goal to make a sustainable city that runs over the principle of low carbon development. The principle of low carbon development in Nusantara is aimed at achieving a carbon neutral city by 2045. Meaning 15 years earlier than the national target. Last year in COP27, we announced that we start the scoping study to prepare the document of Nusantara Net Zero Strategy, or we call it as IKN Regionally and Locally Determined Contribution, RLDC. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, we launched the Nusantara Net Zero Strategy, the document that provides directives for us for making attempts, policies of greenhouse gas emission reduction and climate resilience in Nusantara subnational jurisdictions. We also will use this document to provide a systematic effort for us, the IKN authority, to contribute to Indonesia's NDC. And today, we have the opportunity to discuss in details of IKN's RLDC strategy, including the targets that would be achieved. In general, the Nusantara Master Plan and Special Plan already provide a clear framework for emission reduction in IKN. If we are consistent with the Master Plan, with the Special Plan, we will have a carbon negative by 2045. But we understand that this is not easy to achieve this goal, considering several factors. In the forest sector, for example, we must deal with the current situation where most of the forest ecosystems in Nusantara are degraded, not because of the construction project, but this is basically a legacy of the past, where extractive industries had converted natural forests into monoculture forests, palm oil, and coal mining. And similarly, that forest fires in East Kalimantan in the 1990s already destroyed much of the natural forests in areas that now become Nusantara. Nevertheless, reforestation policies and programs are must. Our spatial planning has designated that 65% of IKN should be a protected areas that need to be reforested, meaning that we only build for 25% of the total land of Nusantara. Certainly that we have to work hard in this area to make reforestation can achieve, not just planting trees, but rebuilding healthy forests will better the biodiversity. Next year, we will launch our Nature Positive Plan as another document that will complement the Nusantara RLDC. To reforest and control deforestation, we have also implemented a moratorium policy on new palm oil and mining licenses. Similarly, law enforcement against illegal mining is being carried out together with other ministries and legal institutions through a special task force on illegal mining for Nusantara. The construction and energy sectors, as well as waste management, are receiving special attention too. By 2045, IKN will use 100% renewable energy. A transition period will be necessary for some time before that. The use of more environmentally friendly building materials will also become our target. It may seem difficult, but I want to convey that this is not impossible. A robust policy framework is in place. A hybrid and agile bureaucratic organization will be the driver of innovation. We have received support from many parties, national and local governments, multilateral institutions, private sectors, universities, and also NGOs. And finally, we hope that this discussion will inspire on our policy making and our actions. Very much welcome to learning from the speakers and also from you all, the participants of these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mirna. For the benefit of those of you who didn't attend the launch 2 days ago, allow me to screen a short video that summarizes the publication. Right. And
From Jakarta to Nusantara, Indonesia's new capital city marks a monumental shift towards a sustainable, climate-resilient future. The new capital city is closer to the nation's geographical heart. This relocation aims to forge an equitable landscape accessible to all citizens and regions across the archipelago. Nusantara's development symbolizes an important milestone in the national transformation towards a modern and advanced Indonesia. Reflecting national identity, Nusantara commits to being a smart, sustainable, net-zero forest city. It will set the benchmark for other cities in the country, spearheading initiatives to enhance and safeguard the environment through comprehensive restoration and steadfast preservation efforts. Nusantara plays a pivotal role in Indonesia's climate goals and will aim to achieve net zero emissions by 2045, 15 years ahead of the 2060 national target, embodying a harmonious blend of urban development and natural environment as a city in the forest with a forest in the city. To meet its ambitious targets, Nusantara requires a robust framework of policies and actions encapsulated within the Nusantara Net Zero Strategies, serving as Indonesia's subnational climate action implementation plan. These strategies delineate 3 distinct emissions reduction scenarios. First, the business as usual. Second, the master plan scenario, aimed at achieving a reduction of 1.1 million tonnes of CO2 emissions below BAU by 2045. And lastly, the enhanced scenario, targeting a more substantial 1.6 million tonnes CO2 reduction. The Nusantara Net Zero Strategy meticulously outlines specific actions and approaches to achieve the net zero goal through tangible efforts, delving into crucial sectors such as forestry and other land use, energy, waste management, industrial processes and production use, construction, and agriculture. To achieve the 2045 target, the following strategies are essential. Within the FOLU sector, Nusantara's forests will be expanded to encompass 65% of the total land area. This requires dedicated conservation, rehabilitation, and forest expansion efforts. As a result, emissions in Nusantara could potentially decrease by approximately 1.7 to 1.9 million tonnes of CO2 by 2045. In the energy sector, emissions are anticipated to peak by 2028, then steeply decline by 2030 before reaching net zero by 2045. Energy supply will transition from mixed fossil fuels and renewables to 100% renewables by 2028. The construction of renewable energy sources will commence by 2024 with a 50 megawatt solar power plant. In the master plan scenario, electric vehicles will serve 100% of transport needs by 2040. The IPPU and construction sector aims to limit emissions by adopting low-carbon building materials and design. If Nusantara continues with traditional cement and building practices, emissions could reach around 0.9 million tonnes of CO2 by 2045. However, employing the latest low-carbon technology in cement production could reduce emissions to 0.5 million tonnes of CO2 by the same year. For the waste management sector, Nusantara aims to achieve a 60% reduction in waste going to landfill by using a 3R: reduce, reuse, recycle, circular economy approach. Through intensified recycling and composting efforts, emissions could be reduced by over 48%. In the agriculture sector, a comprehensive strategy will be put in place to ensure food security and sustainable climate-friendly agricultural practices. Nitrogen fertilizers are the most significant agricultural source of greenhouse emissions. Nusantara will push towards the utilization of low-carbon, environmentally friendly biological fertilizers and pesticides. Post-harvest handling and processing are given attention to minimize losses and optimize value, along with the adoption of advanced horticultural production technology. The Nusantara Net Zero strategies aim to create a climate-resilient city, encompassing economic, social, and ecological dimensions. Particular focus will be directed towards ensuring food security and mitigating climate risks associated with droughts, fires, and floods. Climate adaptation efforts will pave the way towards fostering a climate-resilient community able to adapt and thrive in a changing environment. The Nusantara Net Zero Strategy (RLDC) provides clear pathways to meet carbon emissions reduction commitments made by the new capital city and sets the blueprint for a world-leading sustainable city.
Thanks, a very nice video. So may I now invite we actually today are very privileged, as I said earlier, to have a distinguished panel of experts and practitioners on the field. So we want to hear more from them and learn more from them. May I now invite the colleagues? First, can I call Dr. Fadli Rahman, Director of Strategic Planning and Business Development at Pertamina New and Renewable Energy, NRE. Please a big round of applause. The second speaker will be Roger van den Berg, the Global Director of the Cities Program at the World Resources Institute. Roger, please. The third speaker is Dr. Norio Saito, the Senior Sector Director of the Water and Urban Development Sector Office at Asian Development Bank. And last but not least, of course, my colleague, Mr. Pungki Widyaryanto, Director for Forestry Development and Water Resources at Nusantara Capital Authority. Welcome, gentlemen. Okay, this is closer. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us today. Can I start the discussion today with actually asking more specific about this Nusantara strategy plan? So can I start with Pak Pungki? Pak Pungki, Ibu Mirna, yourself, and the team are actually the people who are responsible, in a good sense, behind this plan, right? So can you tell us more about how this plan or this strategy can be very important for Nusantara in achieving our KPI, our key performance indicator, to become a carbon neutral city? And if you can go a little bit deeper on the methodology, like how do you develop these emission targets that was presented to us earlier? You can use the mic. Okay.
Test. Yes, I can use this one. It doesn't work. And actually, I prepared some presentation, but I will present it shortly. Well, the RLDC and the net zero strategy, Nusantara net zero strategy 2045 is really important for Nusantara and for Indonesia, because as we know that one of our indicators, key performance indicators, is to achieve net zero city in 2045. And why this document is important? First, as we know that Nusantara Capital City, currently we create how we achieve the net zero city in 2045 and align with the national policy, which is a national determined contribution. And why we call it is RLDC, it is regional that the new capital city, Nusantara, it is a district covered with a substantial area and will have the administrative status. And it is local because we will engage the local communities as well as indigenous people. Next slide, please. The next one. This is how we develop the three scenario, how we reduce the emission in Nusantara. Using what we call it the model, green economy model for Nusantara, or GENUS, we develop three scenario. The first one, we call it as business as usual. With business as usual, if we do nothing, or if we build city like other cities in Indonesia, for example, like Jakarta, the emission will be 10.8 million tons CO2 equivalent. If we reduce the emission with scenario one, which is a countermeasure one, is in line with our master plan, we can reduce the emission 1.1 million tons CO2 equivalent in 2045. So it means that Nusantara is not net zero city again, but it aims to become a carbon negative capital city. And if we do ambitious with target stronger ambitions, we can reduce 1.6 million tons CO2 equivalent. I think that's all, Pak Chai.
Thank you, Pak Pungki. Can I now move to Norio-san, please? Yeah, because I know the ADB has been working with a lot of cities across Asia. So probably you can share how these efforts like this in the climate change adaptation and mitigation has actually shaped the cities, especially its strategies when facing the climate change.
Hello. A very good morning, and thank you for having me here in this event. Let me begin by congratulating Nusantara Capital Authority for launching this very important net zero strategy 2045 for Nusantara. Yeah, so on the question, I want to first stress the importance of spatial planning or urban planning. In a new capital city like Nusantara, there are tremendous opportunities as well as challenges for making the city very low carbon and climate resilient. If you look at this IPCC AR6 report on the Working Group 3, Chapter 8, that's about the urban sector. So there are three elements stressed in that report to make urban areas or cities climate low carbon. One is about urban form or spatial planning, to make the city dense, or important aspects are density, mixed land use, accessibility, and connectivity. So if through the master planning process, if you can design the city in a compact way, you can really, there's a great potential to reduce the carbon emissions. And the second aspect is electrification and the decarbonization of electricity supply. In case of Nusantara, you have already been highlighting this to make the source of energy 100% renewable by 2028. So that's really a way for this low carbon city development. The third aspect is green and blue infrastructure. Again, this aspect is highlighted well in Nusantara's capital plan, because you're really addressing this natural resources management and other things. And actually, those kind of strategies which are contributing to mitigation have also co-benefits on climate adaptation, as well as other environmental sustainability benefits. So just a few points to highlight, like if you look at urban planning, if you can avoid development in hazard-prone areas, that's really important adaptation measures. And also, if urban planning incorporates the risk assessment and preparedness, how to prepare for the disasters, what should be the evacuation plans, that way will help the city more prepared for the disasters and enhance the preparedness of the citizens. Another aspect is this green infrastructure and the natural resource management. I think when Mr. Susantono stressed this or launched this strategy, he mentioned that Nusantara is adopting this Sponge City concept. So that's actually one of the good practices of ADB finance project. So I'm happy to see that Nusantara is adopting international best practices in the city planning processes. And also in case of Nusantara, this preserving and restoring natural ecosystems like forests, coastal areas that are really important, not only for the low carbon development, but also for the adaptation purposes. So if you plan the city in such a way, and then if you look at specific components, like water supply systems, wastewater management, solid waste management, so those components also you can really look at from a climate lens to make the design more climate resilient, low carbon, and it will really help this net zero strategy achievement. If you look at waste management, you are already highlighting this 3R strategy, circular economy principles. So for those individual subsectors, there is a great potential to reduce the mitigation, reduce the carbon emissions, and then lead to the adaptation and resilience of the cities. So those are the things that I wanted to highlight here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Narya-san. I think you highlighted a very important point, which is that we do have this opportunity and challenges in having this plan, and that makes a good segue to the next question that I want to pose to Roger, actually, because I know that WRI has been working across cities around the world. We have seen success stories. We have seen not so successful stories as well. From implementing the plan. A plan is one thing, but how to implement it, effectively on the ground. So, what can you share here about the lesson learned that we can learn from other cities that you may have been working with on how they can effectively implement this, carbon strategy plan on the ground. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And let me first also commend the Minister of Forestry with this and with this the net zero strategy. This is fantastic. It's a lot of work. And also, Ms. Safitri, I really want to commend you on a data-driven approach, because there's a lot of ideas about green cities, but you know what you can't measure, you can't manage. So it's very important to have this data-driven approach. Also highlighting, before I get to your examples, don't worry, I just want to highlight that this COP, together with city networks and city organizations, so WRI, together with C40, GCOM and ICLE, we've been launching the Integrity Matters report. These are recommendations to define net zero for cities, but also make sure that cities are held accountable and help cities to actually report on how the progress on net zero goes. And I think with Nusantara and with the strategy in hand, there's a huge opportunity to show, you know, how you do it in a credible and a transparent manner, and how each of the systems that you address here, energy, FOLU, mobility, how they actually contribute to the big picture. So thanks for doing that and for really paving the way for a new type and a new approach. I think for a long time our city planning has been very much kind of excluded from nature, right? Long time we have seen you have cities and urban development and you have nature. And it's now time, and of course that movement is already kind of gaining traction over the last few years, to integrate nature, to integrate agriculture and cities, to create a much more kind of a landscape approach. We have a network which is called Cities for Forests, with 69 cities that address this. How do you actually integrate nature with cities? But also how you finance it, because it's difficult, right? You can have great visions, but you know, let nature grow is a complex challenge. Through that network, but also through the work that we're doing in over 15 countries, we are we have quite a good view on different type of plans, and I just want to highlight 2 or 3 examples, maybe one from Latin America, from Africa, and from Asia. I think you address here very much the mobility system. As we all know, mobility accounts in most cities the second biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in most cities. First is buildings. So I saw already quite a few renderings of buildings. So how to make them net zero is the first challenge. The second challenge is how to develop a plan around a kind of an approach of accessibility. And Guadalajara in Mexico, we've been involved, is very, very advanced in that. Guadalajara, a city of around 1.5 million, but the metro area is around 5 million people. And they have a climate action plan for the metro area. And that is really aimed at giving access to everyone. So also for the poor and vulnerable community, giving access to everyone by introducing and by connecting communities to a public transport system, in this case a BRT system. And I think that is very powerful. Powerful of that example is that you have different jurisdictions working together around a physical system, right? You know, a public transportation system. And of course then the plan is getting more granular in how you arrange first and last mile connectivity. How do you actually create the opportunity for everyone to move through the city and through the region? So that Guadalajara climate action plan is very good. It's also very data driven. Second example is in Mumbai. We've been involved, largely involved in the Mumbai climate action plan. Everybody knows here, Mumbai, this is a very complex case, right? Very big city. With 50% of the people living in kind of informal context. The Mumbai Climate Action Plan is the first one in India and sets an example because it brings together both the net zero component and the resilient component. Really giving people access to better and resilient housing, so housing that doesn't flood, and housing that can cope with the heat extremes. We also launched a report this COP around extreme heat. I'm not going to go into details, but the pathway that we're looking right now if we don't stick to the 1.5 degrees, the extreme heat in cities and also in Nusantara will kind of rise exponentially. So how do you create kind of climate resilient structures, sufficient green spaces, and cooling around housing and buildings? And the climate action plan of Mumbai is very much addressing that. The access to housing, the access to resilient public spaces, the access to public transportation. What is nice, and I will maybe later on, I'll give you one more example, but maybe later on we can talk a little bit more about that, is also how you manage a climate neutral and net zero city, right? It is not, cities don't grow overnight. I've been working in the city space for, I'm not that old, but at least 25 years I'm obsessed with cities. I've been practitioner in cities. I've been working on quite a lot of new towns, research new towns, and all have a long lifespan. Doesn't matter how bright you are, how bright your team is, how bright the population is. It takes time to mature a city. It takes time to grow a tree, right? So giving the possibility for a city to grow and to allow other actors to contribute to its development, I think it's very important. In the climate action plan of Mumbai, I like two things very much. They set up a task force to connect the different sectors and to look in each sector how it contributes to the climate action plan. Because climate is not a separate department, it cuts across all these sectors, right? And the other thing is that often there's a question, where does the budget come from? And so in the Mumbai Climate Action Plan, we supported in what is called climate tagging the municipal budget. We just looked at all the money that's available and how that could be invested in more climate resilient and net zero solutions. Then give me the last example is around the importance of addressing the water cycle. Water and scarcity of water, flooding, there's always too little, too much, or polluted water. And in urban, this is going to be the challenge of the next 10 years for cities. Through our Urban Water Resilience Initiative in Africa, which addresses, amongst others, the capital Johannesburg in South Africa, we really looked at a much more holistic approach to addressing water. Because water, again, is not a sector, because you have water supply, water management, and climate adaptation. So bringing these different actors together and setting a much more holistic approach to how you deal with the water, which is inextricably linked. Just sorry, I'm looking all the time at those beautiful trees at the back of you. So the water is inextricably linked to how you are going to be able to achieve your idea of a forest city. So these are a couple of examples that I wanted to address in this meeting. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Roger. I think there's a lot of knowledge that just coming out from your 5 minutes intervention. I think we should talk more on the sideline, right? On the lesson learned that you get from 25 years working with cities. 25 years plus, right? Anyway, but you mentioned something important, which is the involvement of multiple actors in this field, right? Allowing other actors to participate in this climate action. And that actually brings me to the next question, because we also need to remember there's a private sector element or corporate element. So I think, Pak Fadli, I know you're from Pertamina, but somehow you can represent the corporate perspective, right? Like how a new business strategy of companies like Pertamina, for example, it can align well with the national climate or local climate policies. If you can share some of your thought here.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And please allow me to congratulate the Nusantara Capital City for launching the net zero emissions target. And this is, has been a great accelerations of some of the milestones that you guys have developed. Oh, okay, thanks. So as we all know that Pertamina is mandated to serve 280 million people of Indonesia in terms of providing the energy security, right? And we are obliged to reduce the emissions together with some of the important entities, of course, including the Nusantara Capital City. Nusantara Capital City, we believe, is one of the most utmost priority programs that the government of Indonesia has right now. And we, from the state-owned enterprise, would like to engage and work together. We've signed an agreement 3 months ago, ensuring that we can together develop some of the infrastructures, low carbon infrastructures, not within the capital city, not only within the capital city itself, but also surrounding it. But as a corporate, right, we want to make sure that our emissions is reduced, but at the same time maintaining the level of energy security is fulfilled for the people of Indonesia. And there are several programs that we are developing as a corporate to maintain the productions of oil and gas, upstream, downstream, right? But also to reduce that emissions and develop the new businesses in terms of the low carbon business as well as green business, right? So some of the priorities that can be relevant for Nusantara Capital City is definitely, number one, we are providing the renewable capacity. Pertamina is right now not only an mere oil and gas company, it's an integrated energy company. We're providing end-to-end energy, right? And number two, we are also providing a clean hydrogen development, right? Be it for industrial and mobility, right, purposes. And number three, right, surprisingly, as an integrated energy company, because Indonesia is such a unique country, and there is no one size fits all when you're talking about what is the business model for oil and gas company or energy company, right? It has to fit with the landscape that they're operating in. And since we're operating in Indonesia, Indonesia is a large forest country with more than 500 concessions, more than 120 million of forestry area. We have to synergize, the energy industry and the forestry industry to ensure that the needs of both areas are also fulfilled. And that's the reason why, believe it or not, since 2 years ago, Pertamina, as an integrated energy company, is also managing forestry areas. And we have 9 forest concessions that we work together to develop nature-based solutions programs, right? That's the reason why we are looking into developing the same programs with Nusantara Capital City.
Thanks so much, Pak Fali. I will let you share more about our collaboration a bit later. Yeah. Can I now go back to Pak Pungki at the end there? Pak Pungki, can you share with us what does actually Nusantara want to achieve with this document as in a goal, and how would you actually implement this strategy together with the other strategies that that Nusantara may have and our targets in 2045 actually? Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. So actually, this strategy that here, we not only want to reduce the emission, but we want to make Nusantara as a climate resilient city. And as we know, then East Kalimantan, we have a problem with water. During rain season, we have flood, and during the dry season, we have drought. So we apply the nature-based solution, or NBS, in water management. For example, currently we will build like in one area, in what we call it core government area, we will build like around 20 reservoir. It is to trap the storm water or the rainwater, so it will be absorbed into the land in the Nusantara. And then the second one, Nusantara is not only the resilient city, but it's also with a nature positive city. And we will want to enhance our biodiversity, as we know that there are many biodiversity in Nusantara, not only in the terrestrial, but we also have in the sea. For example, what we call it, it's a dolphin. It's like a dolphin in Balikpapan Bay. And to make those happen, we have like 5 sectors. The first is come from forest and other land use, and then second one is the most challenging one is from energy, as Pak Nori said, that energy is most challenging one because we want to apply 100% renewable energy for Nusantara. I know it is very hard, but we have this ambition to achieve this net zero city in 2045. And then we will apply from construction sector, we will apply low emission cement. And then for the waste management, as we seen in the video, we will apply the 3R and circular approach, and then the last one we will apply the regenerative agriculture. I think that's it, Pak Chai.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Pungki. Can I now jump to Roger again, please? You earlier talked about the role of the leaders, the local leaders, and how you need to coordinate among the different authorities, if not mistaken. And since Pak Pungki mentioned about our 5 plans here, what are the lessons learned that you can share with us on the role of the local leaders to make sure that everyone is involved, that no one is left behind in this pursuit towards the net zero?
Thank you very much. So local leadership, and you have that in different, you can define local leadership in different levels, right? Either at the community level or the level of the city. This COP, we had 200 mayors coming to COP to address the role of cities, right, in the national climate agenda. So Nusantara is definitely an example of how a city can actually even be more progressive, faster and innovative than at the national level. So I think a local leader in terms of a formal role is being a champ in driving this agenda. And therefore it's very important, and that is not abstract matter, therefore it's very important that you include different communities in planning processes. So it means that it means include citizens, include disenfranchised communities, but also include entrepreneurs in the private sector, because you can't, this ambitious plan you never can implement by the plan itself. How beautiful it is in a book. You need the people, the organizations to rally behind you and to share that vision. And I think there is an extreme amount of, I've seen, and every year we have the prize for cities, and every year we have a prize for cities, and we usually get 260 submissions every year. And all the successful stories are about how coalitions in cities have been able to transform cities over the longer time. And how do you bring these coalitions together? That's one, that is local leadership. But also how the formal authorities and the formal planning processes acknowledges and rewards these trajectories. If you have good energy in a city, that cannot sustain forever without reward, So if you have a community, if you have a couple of entrepreneurs that want to re-green or maintain, the green context in which they are operate, let them do it, but also give them the resources in order to do it. So I think that role of local leaders at all levels, to on one hand connect to community and real ideas, and on the other hand to connect that to kind of formal planning and financing processes, that's really, I've seen that in all these places where successes are met.
Thanks so much. And then on that planning process and on the support, can I move to Norio-san? And what is actually the role of the international donors that can play more and more, I believe, in this process, especially for the ADB? Can you share with us what ADB has been doing in this field?
Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you for the question. When I explain about ADB's role, normally I group them into 4 categories. The first is about technical assistance. ADB can mobilize more grant resources to help cities in master planning or conducting, climate risk adaptation assessment, or helping the policy and regulatory improvement, and also like capacity building. So those supports can be provided as a part of our loan financing, or it can be provided before. Normally there should be some linkage with ADB financing, but that way we can really kind of really help the cities to be ready for infrastructure improvement or service delivery. The second is obviously ADB's financing. It can be loan, concessional financing, or grant resources to help cities improving municipal services or the infrastructure development. Third is about mobilizing co-financing, because subnational authorities' needs are huge. So of course, ADB alone cannot meet those demands. So we collaborate with other development partners, bilateral, multilateral, so that more financing or more funding can be mobilized, including climate financing, to cater to the needs of our cities. The last one is about kind of enabling environment support. ADB can provide like a transaction advisory support to structure PPP projects for the cities. But also, we can help cities to strengthen its creditworthiness so that they can attract more private sector financing. So those are the core key functions that ADB can play. And of course here, the importance of subnational authorities has been increasingly recognized. So ADB has been also enhancing its support to collaborate with the cities, subnational authorities for their planning, infrastructure improvement, and also capacity building. Then with regard to Nusantara, ADB signed an MOU with Nusantara, and among the 4 categories, so far we have been supporting the first one and the fourth one. The first, net zero strategy, we are happy to be a part of this process and making technical inputs. And of course, I want to acknowledge the support from the Australian government, because the funding support came from the Australian government's DFAT to do this work. And also we have been working on other aspects of the planning processes, like minimizing environmental and social impacts, how this city can be developed in a more low carbon and resilient way. So in the end, of course, I look forward to the implementation of this net zero strategy. I'm sure there are many challenges in implementation, but we look forward to collaborating further in this very exciting journey for Nusantara. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the support actually for so far to this process. And can I, last but not least, actually, as I promised, can I go back to Pak Fadli to actually give some little bit of explanation on the collaboration that Pertamina NRE is going to do with Nusantara in support of our net zero program here.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned a great tagline, no one left behind, right? No one should be left behind. When you develop the nucleus, the main part of the city, the supporting areas needs to be developed as well. Now we're talking about biodiversities, right? We're talking about the community of 270,000 people in the supporting areas of Nusantara City, right? That's more than 70,000 households. More than 100,000 are women, right? More than tens of thousands are children, right? We need to make sure that the standard of living of them are also increased, right? When we're increasing the standard of living of people that living in the Nusantara City, right? So the project that we have right now, the program that we have right now together in collaboration with Nusantara is to make sure that the supporting areas is developed. So we have a nature-based solutions projects with ensuring that the climate, community, and biodiversity aspect is fulfilled as well. So programs such as climate smart agriculture, smart agroforestry, future forest protector scholarships, local economy, financing and market support, right? Including how we can improve the health, sanitations and hygiene aspects within the supporting areas itself, and bringing technology, renewable technology, digital telemedicine, mobile, healthcare, so on and so forth, right? So those are the programs that we're currently developing together with Nusantara.
Thanks so much for sharing. We are still good in terms of time. I think we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. If any colleagues from the audience want to raise any questions, you are most welcome to do so. Please, yeah. The mic is coming.
Hello, everyone. Well, I apologize because I came very late, so I'm going to ask a question that may have already been answered, but might be worth revisiting. I'm an architect, and I work with Cities for Forests, and we're helping cities all over the world create beneficial relationships to forests, which clearly this project will also do. And we also work with bio-based materials a lot and looking for bio-based material solutions for the growing cities of the world. And this seems like the perfect laboratory, to put it simply, for the latest thinking and implementation and proof of concept for bio-based materials like bamboo. I'm sure this has been discussed, sustainable timber, and other low carbon or net carbon storing materials for urban buildings. So again, perhaps it's already been said, but if it's worth revisiting, I'd love to hear just a quick thought about how this will be a laboratory for bio-based urban construction.
Yes, thanks. We have discussed yesterday. Yes, actually, the initiative of City of Forest, we apply the concept of our new capital city from your initiative as well. So our concept, one of our concept is a forest city. So the initiative of City of Forest, City for Forest, I think is in line with our concept. And I agree with you, if we can invite other cities in the world to make Nusantara as a living laboratory, if we make a new city with the concept of city in the forest or forest in the city, I think it's very great. And we are very open to all the stakeholders, including your organization, to come to Nusantara to make a new city with the concept of forest in the city or city in the forest. But yes, we will apply the concept of forest city to all of these, our special plan in the building design. For example, we design our building based on the, biomimicry. There is trees, and then where the orangutan live, and then we apply it into our one of our design in the building design. But anyway, thanks for this initiative.
A city like this with, what's the population projection for, say, 2030? What would the population be of the city, possibly? Do we have a projection of 2030 population for the city?
2030.
In the year 2030, what would the population of the new capital be? In terms of residents, would it be several million people by that time, or?
Well, actually, there is a projection in 2030, and there will be like 500,000.
500,000,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So those are all houses and buildings that need to be built. That's a lot of material. And
Yep.
that material will have a huge impact on the climate. And so really what I'm speaking about is the relationship between this new construction and all of the volume of material. If we do that in business as usual, concrete, we're going to completely go way past our climate target. So net zero means net zero materials, which means bio-based. It's the only way to achieve net zero construction is bio-based material. And one of our most promising technologies is bamboo, which Indonesia has an incredible bamboo resource. So we're really looking to this city as a showcase to the world for developing the technology for the world, the world. The world needs it, and this is the place that we should be looking to as a poster child for bamboo and other bio-based construction for tall buildings. I'm talking 3, 5, 10, 15, 20-story buildings that can be built in these bio-based materials.
Right. Yep. Yes. That one is the most challenging for us, because we build a new city. We need materials, for example, cement, and then iron and steel and others. And we have calculated those material into our scenario. However, as we know that those materials are produced outside the Nusantara, so we exclude them from our scenario. However, if there will be like material factory in Nusantara, we will apply the low carbon technology material for construction. We hope so.
I just want to raise, thank you for Pak Fadli for raising it that we discussed about the green building design and materials, in which we actually have stating here that by using cement with latest low carbon technology, by 2045, is it correct? Yeah, so it will drop our emission by 0.0 million ton CO2. Yeah. Okay, sure. Any want to have any follow-up question or any other colleagues who want to raise questions?
It's okay.
Yeah. Or any other? No? Okay. If not, then this has been a very interesting discussion, I would say. I don't want to summarize anything, but I just catch some keywords here. What are the important points that I've been hearing? I've been hearing about that the integration of nature in the city development is critical. I keep on hearing on the collaboration, the need to collaborate with different stakeholders. Financing is critical. We can have the plan, but without the clear financing strategy, it's also a challenge. And if I may sum up all the discussion on the collaboration, the knowledge that we gain from exchanges with different parties are important, but also the network that we build. And I hope by doing today's discussion, we actually start a long journey. This is a plan, this is a milestone for us, but this is just a starting point. So the devils are in the details later on the implementation later on. So we really look forward to collaboration from different parties, from the civil society, multinational development banks, from the private sectors, and from other stakeholders to really support us in achieving this journey. Right. So with that, I thank you for all the panel discussion today. Please give a big round of applause to them.